I buried my twin brother, Lucas, on a rainy Tuesday in November of 1985. We were 18 years old. We had our whole lives ahead of us. We were supposed to go to the state university together. We were supposed to be best men at each other's weddings. But then came the fire at the old warehouse down by the river. Everyone in our town knew about the fire. It was the biggest tragedy our small community had ever seen. We were hanging out there, just a group of stupid teenagers listening to music and drinking cheap soda. Someone dropped a match. Or maybe it was a cigarette. I never knew for sure. All I knew was that within seconds, the world turned into orange flames and black smoke. I made it out through a broken window, coughing until my lungs felt like they were bleeding. I screamed his name. Lucas. Lucas. But the roof collapsed with a sound like thunder. The firefighters found a body the next day. It was burned beyond recognition. The only way they identified him was by the metal chain he always wore, a thick silver chain our grandfather had given him. It was melted into the skin of the victim's neck. I remember standing in the morgue, my father holding me up because my legs wouldn't work. I looked at the charred remains of my other half. I nodded. I signed the papers. I accepted that a part of me had died in that fire. That was 40 years ago. I am 58 years old now. My parents have passed away. I married a wonderful woman named Eleanor, and we have 2 grown daughters. I have a good life. But there has always been a shadow over me. A silence where my brother's voice used to be. I stopped celebrating my birthday for 20 years because I couldn't bear to blow out candles when Lucas wasn't there to make a wish with me. Last week, my life turned upside down. It started with a letter. Not a phone call, but a physical letter in the mailbox. It had no return address. The handwriting on the envelope was shaky, jagged, like a child learning to write, or an old man whose hands wouldn't stop trembling. Inside, there was no note. There was just an object. I poured the envelope out onto my kitchen counter. A small, silver coin fell out. It spun on the granite and settled with a distinct clink. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't a whole coin. It was exactly half of an old 1922 piece dollar. When we were 10 years old, Lucas and I had found the coin in the woods. We tried to cut it in half with a hacksaw in Dad's garage to seal a blood brother pact, even though we were already twins. We ruined the saw blade, but we managed to snap the coin. I kept the left half. Lucas kept the right half. We swore to carry them in our pockets until the day we died. When we buried Lucas, I asked the undertaker to check his pockets for the coin. He said there was nothing. I assumed it had melted or been lost in the chaos of the fire. I ran to my bedroom, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I opened the small safe in the back of my closet where I kept my most precious things, my marriage license, my father's watch, and my half of the coin. I took my half out. I carried it to the kitchen. I placed it on the counter next to the piece from the envelope. They fit together perfectly. The jagged edge where the hacksaw had slipped 38 years ago matched exactly. I couldn't breathe. I gripped the edge of the counter, gasping for air. This was impossible. This was a sick joke. Someone had found the coin at the crash site, maybe years later, and was messing with me. But who? Who knew about the pact? We never told anyone. Not even our parents. The next night, the phone rang. It was 3:15 a.m. The house was silent. Eleanor was asleep beside me, her breathing soft and rhythmic. The landline on my nightstand buzzed. We barely used the landline anymore, we only kept it for emergencies. I picked it up. Hello? Silence. But not empty silence. It was the silence of a connection. I could hear the static of the line. I could hear someone breathing on the other end. Short, sharp gasps. Who is this? I whispered, trying not to wake my wife. Arthur? The voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. It sounded damaged. It sounded old. But the inflection, the way the voice lifted at the end of my name, hit me in the gut. Who is this? I asked again, my voice rising. It's the ghost, the voice whispered. I dropped the phone on the bed. The ghost was our secret code. When we played hide and seek in the woods as kids, Lucas was always the ghost because he moved so quietly. No one else called him that. No one. I picked the phone back up, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold it to my ear. Lucas? Is that you? I didn't die, Artie, the voice sobbed. I didn't die in the fire. Where are you? I was crying now, loud, ugly sobs that woke Eleanor up. She sat up, looking terrified, touching my arm, but I waved her away. Where are you? Tell me right now. I'm at the old water tower, he said. The one near the interstate. Please. I don't know where else to go. I'm scared, Artie. I'm so scared. Stay there, I commanded. Do not move. I am coming. I am coming right now. I hung up. I didn't explain anything to Eleanor except to say, I have to go. It's an emergency. I love you. I grabbed my keys and the 2 halves of the silver dollar. The drive should have taken 40 minutes. I made it in 20. It was pouring rain, a heavy storm that made the road look like a black river. My mind was racing with 1,000 impossible thoughts. If that was Lucas, whose body did I bury? If that was Lucas, where has he been for 40 years? Why didn't he come home? Why did he let Mom and Dad die thinking he was gone? Part of me wanted to turn the car around. I was terrified that I would get there and find a monster. Or a stranger. Or a criminal who wanted to rob me. But the memory of that silver coin kept my foot heavy on the gas pedal. The old water tower stood on a lonely hill just outside of town. It was rusted and covered in graffiti. I pulled my car up the gravel path, my headlights cutting through the rain. There was a figure sitting on one of the concrete blocks at the base of the tower. He was huddled under a plastic poncho. As my lights hit him, he stood up. I got out of the car. The rain soaked me instantly. Lucas? I yelled over the sound of the wind. The man stepped forward. He dropped the hood of his poncho. I stopped walking. He looked like a ruin. He was missing several teeth. His nose had been broken and healed crookedly. He had a long, jagged scar running from his temple down to his jaw. His hair was thin and gray, unlike my own, which was still mostly thick. He looked 20 years older than me. He looked like a man who had lived a life of absolute misery. But then he looked at me. It was the eyes. They say eyes are the only thing that doesn't change. He had our mother's eyes. Pale blue, with a tiny fleck of gray in the left iris. I looked into those eyes and I saw the boy I had shared a womb with. I saw the boy I had shared a bedroom with for 18 years. He raised a trembling hand. Artie? I didn't run. I couldn't. I walked slowly, like I was approaching a frightened animal. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the 2 halves of the coin. I held them out in my flat palm. He looked down at the silver pieces. He reached out with a hand that was missing the pinky finger. He touched the metal. Then he looked up at me and collapsed. He didn't just fall, he crumpled. I caught him before he hit the mud. I held him there in the rain, this stranger who was my brother. He weighed nothing. He was skin and bones. He smelled like old clothes and sickness. He wept into my shoulder, a sound of pure agony. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I got him into the car. I cranked the heater up to full blast. He was shivering so hard his teeth were chattering. "We're going to the hospital," I said. "No." He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "No hospitals. No police. Please, Artie. They'll find me. You don't understand." "Who will find you?" "Lucas, you've been dead for 40 years. Who is after you?" He looked out the window into the darkness. "The man who saved me. I drove him to a motel 3 towns over. I couldn't take him home, not yet. I needed answers. I needed to know if I was losing my mind." We sat on the cheap beds in the motel room. I bought him soup from a 24-hour diner nearby. He ate it like he hadn't seen food in days. "Tell me," I said. "Start from the fire." He took a deep breath, his hands wrapping around the warm cup of soup. "I didn't make it out the window," he said, his voice raspy. "I got trapped in the basement. I fell through a weak spot in the floor when the beams came down. I thought I was dead. The smoke was choking me. I blacked out. But we found a body," I said. "With your chain." I gave the chain to Mikey, he whispered. My heart stopped. Mikey was a kid who hung out with us sometimes. A runaway. He didn't have any family. Mikey liked the chain, Lucas continued, tears leaking from his eyes. He asked to try it on just before the fire started. I let him. When the fire started, Mikey didn't make it. He must have been the one you found. I felt sick. We had buried a boy named Mikey and put my brother's name on the stone. No one ever came looking for Mikey. "What happened to you?" I asked. "Someone found me in the basement," Lucas said. "A man. He wasn't a firefighter. He was a scavenger. He was looking for scrap metal in the ruins while the fire was still dying down. He found me unconscious, burned, but alive." "And he helped you?" Lucas laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "He took me. He had a truck. He drove me 3 states away to a farm in the middle of nowhere. He was paranoid. Crazy. He thought the government was going to end the world. He needed a worker. A slave. Lucas. He kept me in a cellar for the first 2 years, he said flatly. He told me everyone I loved was dead. He told me the fire had burned the whole town. He said if I left the farm, the radiation would kill me. I was 18, Artie, but I had a severe concussion. My memory was broken. I believed him. And then, after a while, I just became too afraid to try. He beat me if I tried to leave. He broke my fingers. He broke my spirit. 40 years? I asked, horrified. You were a prisoner for 40 years? He died 3 weeks ago, Lucas said. Heart attack in the kitchen. I watched him fall. I stood over him and watched the light go out of his eyes. I didn't call for help. I just took the keys to his truck. I found his stash of money. I found a map. I drove. I didn't know if you were still alive. I didn't know if the town was really there. But I remembered the coin. It was the only thing I had left. I had hidden it in my sock that night of the fire. I looked at my brother. I saw the scars on his hands. The way he flinched when the air conditioner turned on. He had lived a nightmare while I was raising a family and complaining about taxes and traffic. Why didn't you come to the house? I asked. I drove past it, he said. It's gone, Artie. A strip mall is there now. I went to the library. I looked up your name. I found your address. But I was ashamed. Ashamed? Look at me, he gestured to his ragged clothes. I'm a ghost. I'm a broken old man. You have a life. I didn't want to ruin it. But then, I just needed to hear your voice. Just once. We talked until the sun came up. I told him about Mom and Dad. I told him they died peacefully, but that they spoke his name every single day. I told him about his nieces. The next morning, I took him to a private clinic. I needed to be 100% sure. My heart knew it was him, but my brain needed science. We did the DNA test. The rush fee cost me $2,000, but I didn't care. We waited in the motel for 2 days. I bought him new clothes. I shaved his face for him because his hands shook too much to hold the razor. When the gray beard was gone, I saw him. I really saw him. He was aged and weathered, but he was Lucas. The email came on Thursday afternoon. Probability of full sibling relationship, 99.99%. I showed him the phone screen. He didn't smile. He just closed his eyes and let out a long, deep breath, as if he had been holding it for 4 decades. It's real, he whispered. I'm real. You're real, I said, putting my hand on his shoulder. And you're going home. Bringing him home wasn't easy. Explaining it to Eleanor, to my daughters, to the town, it was a media storm. The dead boy who came back. Reporters camped on my lawn. The police opened an investigation into the man who held him captive, but he was already dead and buried in a pauper's grave. It has been 6 months now. Lucas lives in the guest cottage in my backyard. He doesn't like being indoors for too long, and he sleeps with the lights on. He has nightmares that make him scream in the middle of the night. Sometimes, I go out there at 3 a.m. and we just sit on the porch, drinking coffee, watching the stars. He is learning how to use a smartphone. He is learning how to be an uncle to my daughters. He smiles more now. We fixed his teeth. He gained weight. Last Sunday, we went to the cemetery. We stood over the grave that says Lucas Miller, beloved son and brother. We need to change the stone, I said. We need to find out who Mikey really was and give him his name back. Lucas nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his half of the silver coin. I pulled out mine. We held them together over the gravestone, the silver glinting in the sunlight. I lost 40 years, Lucas said softly, looking at the name on the stone. I lost my youth. I lost everything. Not everything, I said. I grabbed his hand, the one with the missing finger, and squeezed it hard. You didn't lose me. He looked at me, and for the first time in 40 years, the shadow over my life disappeared. No, he said, a real smile reaching his eyes. I didn't lose you, Artie. We walked back to the car together. Two old men, brothers, survivors. We can't get the time back. We can't undo the fire. But we have today. And tomorrow. And for the first time in a long time, that is enough.